popularly called the Nigerian wife, Mbah from Arise Television. And
good morning, sir. Thank you for having me.
Amishi Anokwe from AIT, Natalie Uku from Afia TV, and Nifemi Uguntoye from Television Continental.
Thank you for having us.
Let's get started. Something happened today, historic in the sense that there is a shift in the politics of Enugu State, and you are the man, I wouldn't say in the eye of the storm, but right in the middle of it. Why? There's been a lot of rumors anyways, up until now. What has happened today? Your people say it is not defection, it's a movement. What did you do today? What happened?
Thank you very much. As you may already know, PDP has been in the hearts of Enugu political identity over the last 27 years. And so what happened today is that a decision was made by the political family of Enugu to move to a stronger platform where we can best serve our people.
So the PDP is weak. That's why you left it.
The movement, first of all we have for PDP is gratitude. Gratitude in the sense that we've worked side by side, PDP, we've campaigned and won under that platform. But it also gets to a point when one has to make a choice as to the destiny a person wants. And in this case, we looked at how we can continue to serve our people optimally, right? And we felt that the All Progressives Congress platform provides us that platform to serve our people. And then there's also something, we've also had this symbiotic relationship with PDP, where the Southeast, over the same period, and I think with the exception of the last general elections, we have always given over 75% of the votes from the Southeast to PDP. And it also got to a point where we felt that our voices were being disregarded, even when it mattered most. And, so we had to make the tough choice to stand for accountability.
Sorry, just for a moment. Look at your body, Your Excellency. That's a flag of the APC.
Yes.
How strange does that feel?
It doesn't, in my view, and I understand why you asked that question, and I respect and honor the history we've had with PDP. Make no mistake about that. But as I said, it's almost like when we campaigned for office, we committed to a quantum leap, which meant that we undertook not to look necessarily on the trend, because if you went by the trend, you wouldn't make commitments to grow the economy exponentially as we did, growing the economy by 27% CAGR. And then, of course, eradicating poverty within 8 years. It meant that we needed to do things differently, and we needed to make bold and disruptive choices. And it also meant that we have to look for platforms that enable us to serve our people optimally and be able to deliver on the results.
Your Excellency, you were considered the last PDP governor standing in the region. In It's the first time the PDP would not have such representation in the Southeast. That can be mere coincidence. For instance, your brother governor in ABN visited you a couple of days ago, and that has got people talking, happening just a few days before this announcement. Without trying to preempt his choices, are you governors in the Southeast reading from the same political script? Is there some effort to align the region to the power at the center?
Well, we have to always make decisions that is in the best interest of the people that have entrusted us with their mandate. And in doing so, you have to look at first your states, your citizens, the people you have been elected to serve, and then of course by extension you have to look at the region, because again the Southeast, and if you want to cast your mind back, what has happened in the Fourth Republic, we've been largely under a homogeneous political party. We have never been so fragmented as we are in the last maybe 6 years. And then look at the event of the Third Republic. Again, we were also almost together. You had the NRC, you had Okusleze, His Excellency Okusleze Modo, who was the governor then in Enugu, by extension Ebonyi, because Enugu and Ebonyi at the time were together. And then we had, I guess it was Evans wearing in Imo, right? And then we, under NRC, we have Obonia in Abia. Again under NRC, I think the only outlier then was Anambra, Chukwemeka Ezefe, who was an SDP. But then come to the Fourth Republic, where we started off as all PDP, and we were able to talk about regional interests, consolidate what that interest is, and then make a very strong case and be able to attract things that would benefit the region. And that has worked. I think, in my view, that if we even go back in time and notice the way our forebears, also played politics, they were always interested in what was pragmatic and what was in the best interest of the people. And they were always more than happy to have a handshake across the Niger if it was felt that it was in the best interest of the people. So I think, yes, there should be a conversation within us in the Southeast to talk about how do we consolidate our support base, and so that we can make a case.
So you say that conversation hasn't held, because you make it sound like it's a regional decision. Are we going to be having the same media chat in the neighboring states soon?
I know I'm not going to speak for anyone now, but I'm saying to you that I am convinced that it's in our best interest as a region to begin to think about consolidation of platforms so that we can make a strong case for the region.
So you spoke about, learning from pragmatic politics. I listened to your declaration this morning, and you said that this move is bigger than politics, which was interesting because you're also celebrated widely as one of the best performing governments. You've delivered for your people. We see the change, we see the facelift under you. So it's interesting that you feel that under PDP, you have not been able to fulfill your mandate, so to speak, that you now have to jump over to a place that you think will give you room to do the good work that people already feel you're doing. So my question is this about the people? Because many people are saying that this is just a movement of political elites aligning themselves for what serves them best. When the governor of Delta State moved across to APC, I interviewed Chief Bode George, and he used the term rudderless to describe PDP governors running away from their party instead of doing the work to restore the party. What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's a fair concern, and I imagine many people will feel that way. But we have to look at the deeper issue beyond looking at one party or another. It is looking at what enables you to serve the people optimally. And then you may have served your people. Yes. Are we going to break the stride? No. Are we going to slow down on the progress we have made? What we're actually doing is going to a stronger platform that would enable us optimize, in fact, strengthen, build on what has been described as the 28 months wonder in Enugu State, making sure that development does not or is not determined or should not be determined by the location of where anyone lives. That it doesn't matter where you are in the state, you should have access to quality education, which is responsible for why we're doing over 7,000 brand new classrooms, building 260 smart green schools, making sure that location does not determine access to quality education.
So in essence, you want to make sure you can come back and do another term, so you're aligning with those who will give you another term to complete these projects optimally. Is that what you're saying?
I think what we're doing is that we are carrying the people's trust to a platform that will best serve them. It is not about personal ambition. It has nothing to do with me, because again, at the end of the day, it is about the people. And everything we have done has largely been driven. Of course, the very first thing we said during our campaign for office was to say, look, we're going to deliver quality, people-centered governance. Like, everything will be about the people. And that has driven all the decisions we've made.
Now, we saw the threat from Enugu State PDP over the status of the National Secretaryship of the PDP, that you may consider moving to another platform, and that has happened. What would you say was the last straw that broke the camel's back? Can you also say that there were some overtures from the APC, for instance? The president was there some months back. Tongues were wagging there. So, in other words, were you forced off PDP, or did you voluntarily go based on reach-outs from the APC?
I think I alluded to this earlier on when I said, look, when systems no longer deliver fairness or justice, then we have to make the hard choice, and that choice again must be predicated, on choosing accountability, okay? And without dwelling into what may have transpired in PDP, for me, it was felt that, when it mattered most, our voices were not heard in that regard. And I believe that, the system did not deliver fairness as we had, not just from the point of view of Enugu State, but even the region, because it was the voice of the Southeast that I, represented at the time. But I guess, again, the deeper issue, it's something you raised in your question. The fact that there is a relationship, because ultimately it is not my allegiance, is to the people of Enugu State, is not to the flag or the color or the symbol on a flag. My allegiance is primarily to the people of Enugu State. And when I was also thinking about moving, I was also considering leadership. and identify the leadership in APC, the leadership of APC, His Excellency, the President of the country. I consider his policies and his the bold and difficult choices he's made, the programs. I consider that in sync with the programs and the bold, disruptive things we're doing here in Enugu. So for me, it was almost like a natural choice. And I'd like to also add that there hasn't been any coercion. This was a well thought and carefully considered decision to make in the best interest.
Has there been some coercion from your camp to the other? Because Uche Naji's fate, his spokesperson pointed their fingers at government house to have been behind it because of this movement he said was expected. How will you react to that? You and your interests were not behind that brought him down.
I mean, I just cannot imagine how much more we can stretch our imagination, right? How we can, I think someone may be entertaining himself by those conjectures. I have a lot of work to do, to think about, being behind. I think that the issue here is not about anybody. It is about a carefully considered decision to be able to ensure that we strengthen or build on what is in the best interest of Ndi Enugu. And, if I may add, if you look at the development model at the center, and you want to also look at what we're doing here in Enugu State. For example, look at the Renewed Hope World Development Program. This is a program designed to empower over 8.8 million young Nigerians. You notice that if you're having an intervention that would impact 1,000 young people from the 8,809 electoral wards that we have in the country, it means by extension there is a design to actually lift over 80 million people from the pit of poverty. Because think about it, if you're going to provide seed capital, empower one young person to either set up a cottage industry, go into agro-allied industrialization programs and all that, you are essentially getting another 10 persons out of that pit of poverty. And so that same model speaks to the things we do here, where our programs and our development is all inclusive, because we think about no section, no child, or no ward should be left out in our development program. When we build schools, we build it across the 260 electoral wards. We build the type 2 primary health care centers. They are being done across the 260. We're not doing farm estates, again, doing it across. And again, this is designed to upscale our production, so making our rural area productivity zones. It's essentially what we're doing. So there's quite a lot of synergy between what we're doing here and what is going on at the federal government. And so we're looking at it more like a bridge between Enugu and the federal government, and where our aspiration meets national opportunities.
All right, Your Excellency. What do you have to say to those who may feel disappointed in this decision? I mean, for over 20 years, PDP has enjoyed that dominance in the state. And all of a sudden, like my media colleague rightly pointed out, you are moving to what was before now the key opposition. What do you have to say to those who feel disappointed, who possibly feel betrayed, those who came out in numbers for you, and to those who don't accept it at all? As we've seen another faction made up of the former excos of the now dissolved cabinet saying that they're going to continue with their duties, regardless of the new EXCO. What do you have to say to those two concerns?
And that's the beauty of democracy, that there is that freedom of association. Again, I have said that this was never an easy decision, and it is the fact that the state has carried the banner of PDP over the last 27 years with so much pride. It would never be an easy, so nobody should pretend about it. But I think sometimes we have to defer to a higher principles and higher call. And that's essentially what we're doing here. It's almost like, my background is business, so I'm almost going to use business cases to illustrate. So it's almost like when you talk about the X curve of innovation, and then you notice you start from the era of ferment at the bottom of the X curve, and you get to a dominant design stage, and you get to a point where it gets to the physical discontinuity, just getting at the peak of so you've got to your dominant stage. You now only have marginal improvements, so you're no longer able to do, for example, what we committed to, quantum leap, launching, growing economy exponentially. You're getting to a point where you need to, now create another X curve of innovation, where you need to think outside the box, knowing that even though the old system may have served us, it served us to get us to where we are today. In order for us to get to our destination, we need to be able to identify that new system that is able to serve us optimally, to lead us to that destination we want.
Would you let this new faction operate with your own leadership? Would you let the former faction, the now dissolved cabinet, operate with that led by the caretaker committee chair, Dr. Ben Woye? Would you let them operate hand in hand? Would they both exist?
Oh, party politics about bringing in people, right? And I think that the key thing is for us to understand that we have to consolidate, whichever party we are in, consolidate our support base. So the ultimate goal would be to reconcile the parties and make sure that we all work together for one, common objectives.
All right, one more question. At what point exactly in all of this did you decide to defect to APC? What was that moment that you said, I'm not going to deal with PDP anymore, I need to move? What was that moment?
So a weighty decision like this would require deep reflection, introspection. It's not something you wake up overnight, to. You'd have to always do your analysis around what is in the best interest of your people. And something I have found out about the president is that he's deeply committed to what is in the interest of not just Enugu. There are a couple of things that we've been able to assess as a state, again, thanks to his liberal nature and his interest in our state. So for me, it's always going to be about what serves the best interest of the people. And again, as I said, by extension, the zone, the Southeast region.
It seems, Your Excellency, the question is coming for the second time. That what was the event that was it the Ude Okoye event that made you feel that I've had enough, I've had it up to here? Yes. At what point did you decide that I'm done with the PDP? Or you just took the ticket and you knew from the beginning that you were going to leave?
No, so it's not about any one particular act. And again, as I keep saying, it was also not going, that decision would not have been made exclusively by any act that I believe would not be in the interest of the people. So it would always going to be, and because this also requires movement by an entire political family, it would require, of course, making sure that you understand, you feel the pulse of your people, and you get genuine feedback from them of what they also believe is in their best interest. So it's not just you thinking you're a leader, forcing your position on them, but listening to them, getting feedback from them, understanding how they feel about the whole thing. So this is a collective decision.
So it wasn't at any trying to reinforce my colleague's question.
Yeah.
It wasn't a particular event.
No.
Was it the president who convinced you?
Again, it's
You had a meeting with the president, a private meeting in the villa with the president. What did he tell you?
so as a governor, I would always have access to the president, and I would always have to discuss issues that affect the interest of the state with the president. And so I've not just had a one-off private meeting with.
Earlier in the year, he called you his friend, and that you were doing very well. Some have thought that perhaps the friendship is the foundation upon which this new relationship has been built.
No, I think that I enjoy a very good relationship with the president. There's no doubt about that. And for me, I think, if anything, that is also if you look at when I said this is beyond party politics. It's also about leadership. It's about who you find in a leadership position of a particular party and how comfortable you feel about that leadership, and the fact that you're looking at a leader who, for example, is interested in devolution of power, interested in decentralizing development, who believes that if we're going to achieve a $1 trillion economy in 5 years, by 2030, then the states, the peripherals, the subnationals must be empowered. Who sees that vision, that the growth we're talking about here won't be top down, it would rather be bottom up. Who believes in strengthening the capacity of the local government and even strengthening the institutions at the local level, talking about the traditional institution. I'm sure you know that the president is championing
this move is much about personal chemistry as much as political realignment.
No, so if you think about it, look at the policies of this government and look at what they are designed to do in terms of development. For example, if you look at the removal of subsidies and the unification of the foreign exchange markets, and of course dealing with certain other inefficiencies, they're again designed to free up resources that would be invested in the people. For example, I fell in love with this president from the day he made the announcement to remove a fuel subsidy and unify the foreign exchange market. Essentially because, given my background as also somebody who played in that sector, the oil and gas sector, I had also written a lot in the past, done features on why it had become necessary for the subsidy to go.
Just with apology, so I know you very well, and I know just how brainy and very intellectual you are. And as a moderator, I've not asked my question, but I'm just wondering, and I'm bothered the fact that some of the questions, how you have parried them, and the political questions, and how you have dodged the bullet in not answering them. I have my question, but I'm still worried as to the fact that you are politically dodged away from the answer. And a lot of people are watching, Enugu people are watching, home and abroad. What my colleagues are trying to center on is they want to know who really convinced you about leaving the PDP. And I'm coming to my own question. But you've got to answer that question because it has come in different shades and colors.
So if you want to know about how we became convinced. And I always elect to use a collective pronoun because it's not a unilateral decision.
But you are the leader.
It's, of course,
You are the
I
face.
take full responsibility, but I'm also saying that it required an extensive consultation with the people that have entrusted us with their mandate to serve them. So we needed to engage to also understand how they felt about everything going on in the polity. So it is
President
not,
Tinubu
it
played a
is
role
not,
in that.
it is not one isolated event.
It's doing it again, so you better ask him.
Your Excellency, I have a question. Albeit,
Let me, before you come in, on the people, because you talked about consultations. Now, within the Southeast, 3 states now under the APC, 1 under APGA, 1 under Labour Party. So you can say, make a call, Southeast is APC for structure. Now, the people deep down in their psyche, what we get out there is that APC is still to a reasonable extent alien to them. Now, you have a lot of convincing to do to the people beyond the structures. How are you going to do that?
Because even at the time when PDP was holding sway in 2023, it was Labour Party who had the numbers during the election.
So I think everything you have said supports the fact that our people are essentially interested not necessarily on what is the color you have on a banner. They are interested in being served and being served well. So if you will, good governance. That is what is gaining traction in our literature. So the people are interested in policies, in programs, and in how a government can serve them well. And that is above every other coloration, whether it's, a symbol that is umbrella or broom and all that. What matters most to our people. And this is why we talk about migrating to a stronger platform that would give us that opportunity, where indeed our aspiration can connect with the opportunities available at the national level. And in the last 10 years, where we have, essentially been so fragmented, where we have not quite, the parties in the Southeast have not quite connected with the party at the center. We also know, in terms of development coming towards the Southeast, that it hasn't been quite the same as when we were connected as PDP with the center in the last over the 16 years that PDP held sway. So it's a function of identifying that platform that enables you serve the people optimally. And I think it's extremely important that this is beyond self, is beyond personal interest. It's about the people.
my question is about the impact of a political decision. And I said it's about a triplet, but short one. The first is, do you feel this is a betrayal of the PDP that gave you the ticket?
No. So, and again, I understand why you asked that, and it's a fair concern, but this is not like a betrayal. It is also not abandoning. It is more about thinking I was entrusted with the people's mandate by a people, right? By the people. And it is also now incumbent on me carrying that same mandate, that same trust, on a platform that would best serve the people. So think about it like this. We have a people who, under a particular platform, gave me their mandates to lead them. And then the same people, okay, it became clear to us that the platform on which that mandate was given may not serve us optimally. And then, in consultation with them, we decided that we're now going to migrate to a stronger platform that would best serve them. So I don't see that as a betrayal.
The other part to this question is, PDP sent you to school, you graduated, and you are now taking their certificate to serve APC. So that's where the betrayal question. PDP sponsored you. PDP took your hand to the people. PDP gave you the victory. You won. After tasting power, you abandoned the ship and you moved to the APC. Does that not sound like some kind of betrayal? Do you have an apology to make to the people who thought that you could represent them?
So, Shenwa, I understand the analogy you've just given. But I think that analogy seems to suggest or seems to elevate the party above the people, right? I think that's the point that I'm trying to get you to understand.
It is the
absolutely.
It is. You're not worried about a possible punishment at the board.
No. So the
next time around.
So if this was against the interest, if this move would discontinue or affect the continuity of progress that we have witnessed in Enugu, or if indeed it is about self-ambition, then of course you'll be thinking about this, or your analogy may fit. But this is a lot more about the people first before the party.
So, speaking of the people first, I mean, I've been listening to you very intently, especially because you continue to reinforce the idea that you're in support of the APC's reforms. You like what the APC is doing and you want to take part in that. Which is interesting to me, because if you look at the statistics from the World Bank that were released just last week, our poverty numbers in Nigeria have increased. We now have 139 million people who are living on about 3,000 naira per day, which is considered the poverty level globally. You look at a number of the other metrics, and generally we all know that the quality of life has deteriorated in the past couple of years. Solutions that can bring succor to people. But instead we're seeing Enugu State saying, we want to partake in this hunger with the rest of the nation. We want to partake more in these reforms that, yes, there are some benefits here and there, but because we're saying people first, the pandemic of the pockets is reigning. Empty pockets pandemic is currently reigning. What do you say to your people who say, we thought you would stand up for us and be a voice for us in a time where we are hungry?
Okay, so let me be clear. I think that the policies and the programs of the federal government, it's yielding results. And albeit maybe not at the pace we wanted, but before some of these very difficult decisions were made. And then I would also take you maybe perhaps to one or two countries that were perhaps at the level we were in terms of our macro indicators. I mean, we were almost at a crisis point in terms of our financial sustainability. If you look at the policies that we operated under before the removal of the subsidies, we were getting to a point. I don't know if you cast your mind back in 2001 during the financial crisis in Argentina, when the peso was being basically controlled. They were basically pegging the peso against the dollar. which again, of course, led to what took close to a decade of financial crisis in Argentina, because it got to a point where that pegging was unsustainable, and then of course, you know, there was.
From an economic perspective, I totally understand.
Now, but I'm going to come back to how that would percolate to the micro level. But first of all, if you're going to deal with these matters fundamentally, you have to address those macro shocks, right? You have to be able to stabilize your foreign exchange. You must be able to ensure that you have enough funds to do so, and it's not just artificial stabilization. You have to deal with the fundamentals. And then you have to look at, again, what are those policies that enable you to do that? What we were doing with the subsidies, in my view, was largely just, you know, benefiting, you know, the rich ones, because again, the subsidies we were talking about then was not even extended to diesel, which was what we operated our